The opinion expressed here do not necessarily reflect the views of the network production company. Viewer discretion is advised. This program contains violent content which may be too intense for some viewers and listeners. Viewer listener discretion is advised. Here. Hey. Hey. Oh my God.
Hey,
Blaine, what's up, big man?
just ready to
I'll be
kick
right
butt.
back.
I'll be right back.
Sweet meat on my show. Can I call you back?
How's it going, Blaine?
Hey, it's going good. I'm
You okay?
alive and kicking, and I'm not
Yeah.
dead yet, so y'all not hunting me. So
And we are glad
Okay, I love you.
because we couldn't do
Me
without
too.
without
We're
Blaine.
having fun.
Oh.
Tonight's being good.
So we have two
Love
people
you.
on tonight, Pam and Steve, and
Yes,
they are writing
that-
a book.
Listen, Pam and Steve got the crazy, and I'm acting all silly like this because you know how I'm into serial killers, supernatural,
Mhm.
murderers, mafia hitmen, and I know that's your thing,
Yes.
man. Pam and Steve,
Sam and Steve.
brother and sister, lived the life. Their father was a mafia hitman.
Their
Grandfather?
I think it was grandfather.
We'll find out in a minute.
Grandfather. Okay, yeah.
But
Sure.
the pain that they have dealt with over the years is going to be talked about tonight for the first time. I'm so glad you're a part of this, Blaine. Thank you for being with us as we let them have a full platform for their stuff. Let's get them on here.
Let's get them on.
And we also have a little bit of backup from a guy named Sean.
He's our
And
backup
you
guy.
two get along great already, so this is going to be fun. He's just here because I wanted him
He
to
knows
be.
Pam also. That's how
Yes,
we got
he
to
and
know each
Pam
other.
are good friends.
So
I
here's Pam. Hey, Pam.
Isn't she pretty?
Hi, Pam.
I just think Pam is so
over
pretty.
it.
Her makeup and
There's
stuff.
Steve. Hey,
She's just
Steve.
beautiful. Hey, Steve, nice to meet you.
Hang on, one more.
Nice
And
to
here
meet you.
comes Sean.
I think he's prettier.
There's Sean.
Little guy.
You
Hey,
think
Sean.
Steve's pretty or Sean?
Steve's
They're
prettier
both
than I
pretty.
You got
I
Pam
love
and
the
me.
beard.
Oh, no.
Look, I love your beard. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking. And I work in Oklahoma. I call Blaine every time I go to Oklahoma because I want him to come out there so bad with me and Matt and Gwen, whatever, that, it depends on what the scenario is. But people actually use super glue and turn their handlebar mustache up. I've seen people use permanent, like for females,
Hey,
hair
Adam.
permanent, and they'll sew it, stitch it to where it'll go up, and then
We're
use
not
hair
into
permanent on there to make it curl.
It's so weird.
But
You know, you
it's a
have to
big
be-
thing.
You have to be careful
It
with
is.
that.
It's
You
a
could
big
put an
thing.
eye out.
yeah, really.
Yeah.
Well, you're a mess, just like your sister. I see it now. How do we start this?
How did you find
mean-
out any of this? How about that?
How old were you when you figured out this was the scenario?
Well, I have a story about that. So, when I was about 10, our grandfather had passed away, and his name was Raleigh Walsh, and my brothers and older brothers and sisters said, he's not really your grandfather. I'm like, what are you talking about? This person has been my grandfather my whole life. Is that my grandmother? Yeah, that's your grandmother, but that's not your grandfather. So that's where the story started for me. And so
So it was after his passing. He hid it from you, and then it was like getting to know the man all over again.
So our real grandfather, Pam can tell this story. Let's see. So when our dad was about 6, he told us the story, and our family story was that his dad left when he was about 6 years old. And so he had brothers and sisters, and then his mom got remarried, and that's the person I knew as my grandfather. So the real grandfather had left when our dad was about 6, and we looking at all the stories, looking back at them now, it was kind of a rumor that he went to Chicago, but it was also well known that he went to be involved in the mafia. Well, now we find out, after all these years, that Chicago story was probably just a false story, so nobody could find him. He actually went to New York, and that's where his story starts. But the other part that Pam discovered is even before he married our grandmother and had kids, he was married before that. And all of this happened in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Churubusco, Indiana. And so he had a previous family.
Back then, I'm sorry, Blaine, the dog is looking for you. I'm sorry. You know how this is Luna.
Hello, Luna.
Yeah, and she's looking for Uncle Blaine, and she is a photo bomber.
Hello, baby. Hello,
Steve,
baby.
I apologize, but she's climbing on us, and it's interrupting everything.
Part of it too.
You have to sit down. Sit down with your sister. Sit down.
Okay,
Luna.
sorry. Okay.
Blaine, tell her to sit down.
Luna,
She's
sit
good.
down.
There we go. Okay, she's kissing her sister now. That did it. Sorry, y'all.
So what happens is 1929, our father's father leaves the family with 4 children. He was also married before he married our grandmother and had 4 children. He had one
Wait
child.
a minute. So he got married once, had a child, got married
Divorced
a second time, and had
to
divorced. Okay.
To
Then
our
had
grandmother.
4. Okay.
Had 4, so that left 5. Later, I don't know how much later it was, but the first wife comes to our grandmother and says that she's sick. Can you take care of him? Our grandmother ends up raising him as her child, so she had 5 children.
She knew it was Charlie's son. And Charlie's first wife. Now, this is the family story that we were always told. The first wife came to our grandmother and said she was too sick to take care of him. Would she raise him? And so she did. So our dad, who was the oldest at the time, now had an older brother who was a couple of years older than him. And they grew up together. They influenced each other greatly. So our dad, his half brother, and one of his actual brothers all joined the Navy and were, part of the World War II effort.
Boy, that was an era right there.
Yeah.
That was hard on everyone. All the women, all the men being separated from family, and then coming out from that, you're never the same. Nobody was the same after.
Yep. And so while our dad was overseas, he came across a magazine, and he never really, I never made note of. I wish I had which one it was. He even forgot. So I don't know if it was Life magazine or Look or one
Wow.
something like that. It was an American magazine, but by this time, he found an article in that magazine that Charlie the Bug Workman was charged with the death of Dutch Schultz.
No,
And he-
Lord.
And so, to back up a little bit in the story, the way that hit happened, if you're not familiar with it, is that Dutch Schultz was a mob boss, and at a meeting of the council of the mob, Dutch Schultz said, there's this prosecutor, Thomas Dewey. He's been prosecuting a lot of our family members, what they called them, and we need to put a hit on Thomas Dewey and take him out. Well, Lepke and the rest of the mob bosses said, we don't take out law enforcement. It'll just bring too much attention to us, and so we're not going to do it. So Dutch Schultz wasn't real happy to hear that, slammed his hand on the table and said, well, if you're not going to do it, then I will.
Oh, crap.
So he left, and so Louis Lepke and the rest of them said, we can't allow this to happen. We need to take out Dutch Schultz. And so Charlie got the job to make the hit on Dutch Schultz.
Wow.
And so Emmanuel Mindy Weiss and Charlie got the assignment. And it was Charlie's MO that after he did a hit on somebody, he'd go through their wallet. He'd take whatever they had in their pockets. And so they went to this place in New Jersey where they knew
Schultz
was going to be, and they killed his people that were with him, his security crew. Charlie found Schultz in the restroom and shot him. And so Mindy Weiss was
my
let's
gosh.
go. He's out in the car driving away, and Charlie's still going through the guy's pockets. He comes outside, his ride is gone.
Damn.
Yeah, he's like, okay, so now he had to walk back wherever it was he came from that wasn't close. And the story that I've heard, because so much has been written on Murder Incorporated and all these different hits, there's a story that when Charlie got back, he wanted to file a complaint against Mindy Weiss for leaving him there. And the mob bosses said, it's very cliche, but this is how they operated. They told Charlie, forget about it.
Forget about it.
So he, he just had to drop it. And so it was eventually one of the people involved in the whole operation started talking because they were catching people for different offenses and giving them an electric chair.
Ooh.
And so, as opposed to being sentenced to the electric chair, some people start talking. And
keep
I'm
in
looking
mind
at our
during
book here. Can you remember
during this
who
whole
it was?
time, during this time, just remember that the FBI started their investigation in 1938. So they had been investigating these people for a while and they didn't know it.
I got it.
So,
Well, let me pop a picture up here for you. Let's see
Okay.
if I've got the right Charles Workman. Okay. I know that when I Googled the man, he popped right up. I mean, just right
Yeah.
away.
Yep.
And I put in the bug, and there he is, and he's known for being so handsome. So this
Yeah.
is where you get it from, Steve. He
that's a
is.
very early. That's a very early
Wow.
picture.
Yeah.
Look how dapper he is. Look at that hair. Oh my gosh!
But
And he was.
there should be more pictures. So
Looks like our dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's plenty. That's him on a horse, and he was known for saving a horse.
yeah,
Are you aware of that? I thought that was
Yeah,
unique.
there's a story about there was a crowd gathered around an intersection or something, and they were going to put this horse down because he had his
Hey,
hoof
Thomas.
cut in
Hello.
the sewer.
Oh,
right.
Whenever our host arrived.
Charlie got some help out there and rescued the horse.
what?
Kind of odd
Wow.
for a hitman to do such a nice thing, huh?
Well, see, that's what I mean. We were talking, I can't remember what episode, but we were talking about the fact that, there are some people that end up behaving a certain way and they have a moment of like, we're talking about what is it to be a psychopath? How do you know
Right.
someone is a psychopath? What does that mean? And sometimes that psychopath behavior is seen and it's obvious and that's what they are. But other times the way Tom explained it to me now, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me just
There he
say it.
is.
But Tom is here, so I got it now on what we're saying now. But from what I understand is that sometimes that psychopathic behavior is born because of the situation, and it's not prevalent all the time. And Blaine and I have talked about that several times on other cases, not related to this. So seeing Charlie the Bug Workman being known for saving a horse, and although he was also called the monster at work, it's pretty intense. Here's another one. Let me just go ahead and show you this one too. There is a book. There's more than one book written about him, but this is the Murder Incorporated to the PGA Tour.
Now,
I'm sorry, that's a picture, but that's the way it was when I found it.
Okay, this is the book that was written by Charlie's son from New York and Peter Semino. Charlie's son from New York becomes a famous PGA golfer.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've only known semi-pro golfers. I know that's thrilling. Oh my God, I would love to watch him play.
But, of course, he has passed away also. And so I have even contacted the author of that book, Peter Semino. I've had conversations through email. Didn't turn out very well, but, that's all right. I'm still going to keep on going.
Right.
Also, there's recently, I think it was 22 or 23, there's a family called the Geek family. I think it's Geik. Alan Geek has written a book, and his book is about Uncle Charlie.
Uncle Charlie killed Dutch Schultz.
Yes. His family are the ones that would take, because when Charlie went to prison in 41, his family are the ones that went and paid the wife every week. Every week.
They delivered them. They were the messenger, basically, delivering the money.
They paid her every week, so she was never without.
Yep.
And they took care of the kids, whatever was needed, the mafia took care of. And that continued through life, of course.
And so the other thing along those lines, I kind of discovered looking at all these different books and all these different sources, is that when a mob hit was made, the hitman wasn't necessarily paid
Paid.
for the hit. He was kind of like a lawyer on consignment.
Right.
He had a stipend. He was paid a stipend like every month, and they continued that with Charlie for the rest of his life. They paid his wife while he was in prison, and in that book you just mentioned, his son writes about how the envelopes were still delivered to Charlie personally after he got out of prison.
Gwen, I think I sent you a picture. Hi, Lori. I think I sent you a picture.
Let me
It's a
see.
two-sided. One is
Well, I
Charlie.
just think a picture speaks 1,000 words. So I'm just on here looking for these pictures.
Yeah,
Thomas,
so-
I think you came in and you didn't get to see this gentleman right away. I'm going to go backwards so he
Okay.
can see them real quick. Okay.
Yeah, just before
First
you
of
do
all-
that, just before, I just want to let you guys know that talking about, like we had last week, the paying the family when somebody's in prison or anything like that.
Yes.
That's a tradition from day one. It still went on all the way up with our guest last week, Larissa, when her father was in prison, and how the family had somebody living in the basement to make sure nothing happened to him. So that's another thing. It's a tradition. The mafia does follow tradition, from what I see. It's a family thing, crazy as it may seem. But Murders Inc. was one of the most well-known.
Murder Incorporated is the most well-known.
Yeah, it stemmed a lot of things, where the Jewish mob, the Italian mob, and then them branching off, starting Vegas, parts of the members of that, and just that control that they had at the time. That's I hate to say, I don't want to glorify it, but that is like the great days of the mob.
Honor among
movies about
honor among these men is pretty intense. I mean, it's
So I think one thing amongst all of them, and what got them, what they had was a continuing, never-ending mutual respect.
yes.
And so that respect was also part of earning that respect was not talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yep,
happen.
they did too.
That's the famous word. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Do it, Thomas. You know how to do it.
Thomas can do it.
Oh yeah, forget about it.
Say, forget about it. Blaine, can you do it?
I'm up in New England.
Forget
here
about
now.
it.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
That's right,
Bada bing,
Blaine. I
bada
love
boom.
it. Here's the picture from Pam.
Wow.
Look
So
how
the black and white is when he's released from prison. The other one is on the back of the book from Peter Semino and his son Chuck. And I can only assume that this is right before Charlie dies.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What life did this man lead? Oof.
Yeah.
And so-
Here he is, young Thomas. See if you can read into some of this. You too, Blaine. Look at that man. He was known for being very handsome and absolutely.
Show the one on
Always dressed
And-
well. He was a very sharp dresser.
Well, that's obvious. Well, it would be dishonor for him to look,
Yeah, but it does back then. They meant business. Everything they did was business.
Yep.
You're going to appear that way. That's just the way the mafia was. Things have changed like over the years up into the 80s, where they didn't really wear suits like that.
Right.
But that was a tradition to be dressed to the T's and all that, and do your. How do you like somebody dressed like that comes up with an ice pick and takes it out? That's just so bizarre to me. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
And so keep in mind that he leaves Indiana in 29. Okay. When he goes to New York.
Sorry, I got to put my lights on.
Okay. When he goes to New York, he has a different birth date.
He was smart.
A different set of parents.
And he wasn't.
That's the way it was done
before.
back then.
And he wasn't.
The original marriages was in, I believe, in a Christian church. So when he went to New York, he also became Jewish.
I was about to ask that.
Oh,
I was picking up that he was Jewish. And okay,
Well,
okay. I was like,
if you
how
want
do
to
we
fit
have a
in,
Jewish mafia
Yeah.
hitman? It's just
So then,
Siegel and Myers were,
Yep.
you know,
yeah.
you're mostly the Jewish side and all that. So I could see why he would want to be both, you know. So,
Yeah, well, the reason was
Well-
because they could not join the actual mob. So,
Yeah.
since Lucky grew up with all of them anyway, he said, "Look, I can't make you into our mob, but you
Yeah.
can have your own mob, and we will hire you as Murder Inc." So
Yeah.
that's why they had a mix between Jewish and Italian, and they had Germans.
Yeah.
in
see,
there.
I
They
didn't
had-
know that.
Oh,
I knew
well,
about the Russian.
and
I know
you
the
could only
Russian
be
top.
a certain level. You had to be from Sicily to
Sicily.
be at the higher levels of it. Otherwise, you were at a lower level.
Yeah.
And I think the next level was Jewish,
Mhm.
just to be at the a seat at the table, so to speak.
And so it's funny that you mentioned Russia.
mhm.
His parents in New York are from Russia.
There it is.
His date of birth is 1898. The parents in New York were born in Russia 1884 and 1890.
All righty then.
Does that add up?
So
No.
yeah,
The
those
dad's
are not
8 years
his
old.
parents.
So the mom would have been 8 in Russia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's not right. Here's
So,
another picture
But
I
here's
want to
the
show
other
you.
thing is my question is how do they find a family from Russia with the same last name?
Yeah.
Probably. My guess is
you
they
can have
went.
this
They
name
went.
for
It's all mafia, so
Well, my guess is they went to Ellis Island, and probably because there was a lot of informants for the mob that worked at
Sure.
Ellis Island, like who was coming in and
Yeah,
out.
there's a lot of flim flam there.
It wasn't that
Yep.
hard.
Your
Just
name.
a couple of names. Yep.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
And-
here's
and-
your mom and dad. Oh, now you're instead
And they
of
changed
working,
people's
now
names
you're
too
Yeah,
Or
they changed
wives.
people's
at
names.
Ellis Island.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they also
Okay.
did people's names.
So, who is Kosher Nostra? I put
Kosher
in,
Nostra.
because now we got the Jewish thing, and it says new memoir details a New York Jewish family crime ties, and there's your dad standing by this man, or not your
You mean our
dad, but your
grandfather?
family, your grandpa. Yeah, there he is, grandpa, and this man is known as the Kosher Nostra. And so there's a book coming out about.
How's that spelled? Because Costa Nostra is just the name of the mob. It's the Sicilian.
Yeah.
Oh,
North
sorry. Okay. Oh, I see.
Okay.
Uncle
Okay.
Charlie killed Dutch Schultz.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah, Cosa Nostra is Jewish American organized crime.
Okay, see, I didn't know that. I thought it was the man's name just from the. Let me pull that down so you guys can see our faces again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to investigate this as we go so I can bring up pictures, kind of
We'll
like.
send you the pictures too, Pam.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it'll also be
So-
in this. Yes.
And so another thing that I want to mention is our dad always thought that his mother had to have Charlie declared dead.
Oh.
Because he left and never came back, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, Within I think it was this big last year, I discovered no. She had to file for divorce. I found the divorce papers, everything she had to fill out, the newspaper article, leaving her with 5 kids, remember? 5. My grandmother had 4.
She had
But
4
she
with
was left
Charlie.
with 5.
God.
So,
Yeah,
the papers
divorce
state
included
each
the
one of
other
their
one.
names. Yeah. Charlie's name is also on all their birth certificates, their death certificates. Of course, Charlie didn't have a birth certificate when he was born. But what I was getting at is, I forget what I was saying, shit.
I hate to do that. It's all right.
5 kids.
What was I saying, Steve?
How did she get a divorce with him gone?
She got a divorce
Thank
And it took time to get that divorce.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So she had met who we knew as our grandfather. The
Right.
court told her she had to wait 3 years to get married. And that was part of her divorce decree. She didn't wait. She went ahead and married our
That's what my
grandfather.
grandma did. Just went right on with it.
And
Yeah.
so keep in mind that Charlie, at first I thought he went to New York and got married, but didn't have a divorce. He did, because my grandmother got a divorce from him.
Right.
Okay.
And
I've got
then,
another picture for you here.
go ahead, Steve. What was you going to say? Yeah, that's Alan Dick.
Yeah, that's the
So
guy.
that's Alan Geek. That's who you were talking about. This guy is a radio show host and TV producer who's written a book about this situation. So
His family also paid Charlie's family while he was in prison. This is
Gotcha.
another family that took care of them.
wow, it said on this particular article he killed 20 people, but he only confessed to killing Dutch Schultz, and that's why he went to jail. I'm wondering if that's right, because
he was
things
he
could
was
easily
only,
get mixed
yeah,
up.
He was only fingered for that one murder, and that made a big deal. And so the ironic part about that is they took Dutch Schultz out because Schultz wanted to take out Thomas Dewey. And so, I don't know, 8 or 9 years later, the prosecutor in Charlie's trial,
Yeah.
Thomas Dewey.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
He saved his life, and now he's prosecuting him.
And
So-
now he prosecuted him.
Yeah, Dewey was responsible for cleaning up the area. Has that prosecutor and all that, and yeah, there was planned
Wow.
hits on him, but they didn't want him taken out because that would have caused them more problems. So
yeah, drawn
where a
too
lot of
much
it came
attention
in.
Right.
on him.
Well, they didn't. Well, they don't go after law enforcement anyway. So that was,
Back then, yes.
right. But I think what I was getting at, when Charlie leaves and goes to New York, he also gives a different birthday, which happens to be our grandmother's birthday.
What?
Wow.
That was easy for
I
him
guess-
to remember.
Yeah, right. I was
Yep.
thinking, in honor of her. No, it's
Nope.
because he could remember it.
Yep.
No,
that-
it's because he had that guilty conscience. Because there was a
True.
few times-
True. Yes.
There was a few
Reason.
times that our dad had told us a story about seeing a car parked down the street, and they knew that it was him, and his mother would make him come in the house, or make
All the kids in the house.
yeah,
And so he
Well-
kept tabs on the family.
yeah. They kept tabs.
In lots of different ways. Of course, I don't think our dad ever knew that, other than the story Pam just told. But they kept tabs on the family, and they knew everyone in the family and
Yeah.
all of their kids.
Yeah, they knew all of us.
Wow.
And so as time goes on, so now it's, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s. Our dad is a state
On a podcast. with
assistant
Pam.
fire marshal in Indianapolis. He shuts down a building. This is a story my dad told me. He had to shut down a building for safety reasons.
Mhm.
Well, one day in his office in Indianapolis, in comes a couple guys in long coats, guns in their pockets, and telling him, "You need to reopen this." And he said, "Nope. If you want something from me, you need to give me something." So when my dad said, "I need you to tell Charlie that I'm looking for him,"
Oh,
and they said, "Forget about it," and left.
forget about it.
Yeah.
So I just found in Crime Magazine
Yep.
an article about A Bug's Life.
Yep.
Okay. And it
What-
goes on to say
Bug's Life.
A Bug's Life. How
Bug's
cute is
Life.
that? Like the movie A Bug's Life. And so he's in Jay Nash's World Encyclopedia of Organized Crime, also in Carl Sifasi Mafia Encyclopedia. I can't say that man's last name. I
I've
totally
seen that,
ruined that. But anyway,
What's the month and year on that time article?
let's see.
On the
This
article.
is October the 14th, 2009.
Okay.
All right. His nickname, Charlie the Charlie Workman, it says, was known by various names: the Bug, the Powerhouse, Handsome Charlie, and he dispatched 20 individuals. He quit school in the 9th grade at age 17, and he had a reputation for being a bully and using rough tactics. He was arrested at the age of 18 for stealing a $12 bundle of cotton thread from a truck. And then at 19, he was arrested for shooting a man in dispute over $20.
Wow.
And then after that, he had to, Workman was sent to New York State Reformatory for violating his parole in the cotton case, the theft. And then he was released 7 months later. And then he found his way back to prison for additional parole violations associating with questionable characters and failing to get the job done. But then after that, he became a model citizen. And then it says, but then in 1932, he was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. And then it goes on talking about, according to Paul Sohn, in his classic tale entitled Kill the Dutchman, Workman was paid a stipend of $125 a week and enjoyed the fringe benefits of being able to sweep out the pockets of his victims. Sohn stated that Workman was one of the cartel's top killers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that,
probably. Yeah, you got to remember that Strauss was part of that too. Pittsburgh Phil was part of that era too. He was probably, some people credit him up to 100 hits. So that whole group together, I think in total, the group all together, it was like over 500.
Ooh.
And so part of the reason, from what I understand, the reason he was called the Bug, because he was
I was wondering.
Always extremely calm. He would take out even an associate, go to the guy's house, talk to his wife, pick him up and say, come on, you need to come with me. He would take him out, assassinate him, go through his pockets, and then go back home. It was always very, very calm. He was never emotional. He was as cool as a bug.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Business. It was business to them. Because what
Yeah.
you're saying is, a lot of people say, hey, he was a psychopath. But that doesn't fit. The reason being is he cared too much about his family. As you said, he was in a car down the street. He was a psychopath. Without that feeling, he would have separated. I think there's more to that. More of a sociopath to be able to bring yourself to do that type of business, possibly. But, I would have to look more at a little bit more history about him. A little unprepared tonight because I was doing a library event talking about paranormal side. But, I'm joining this halfway through, and it's very exciting, and getting to see some relatives of, somebody that was part of Murders, Inc. is pretty mind-blowing for me. So,
And, the most mind-blowing thing, Tom, is nobody's ever seen us or heard this before.
Wow.
That's so cool. We're
Because this is
exclusive.
about his life,
This is his life
like
before.
before 1931,
Mm-hmm.
where he had two families. And so just a couple things. When we were saying earlier that this was our family story, that his first wife came to our grandma and said she couldn't take care of him. So Pam did the research, found that family, and met with them.
Wow.
Just in the last
2 years.
5. Okay.
Wow.
And So they had a different story. They had the same event, but a different story in that Charlie, his name was Robert. Charlie took Robert and
Wouldn't give
his
him back.
first wife's new husband said, "Look, he's involved with the mafia. Just let it go. Just forget about it." And so that was
Forget about it.
difference
Mhm.
in family stories,
Yeah.
but the same event. The guy, and I'm looking on my phone, the names are so small I can't see them, but the guy that was just talking about paranormal things.
Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas.
Okay. We have paranormal experience relating to Charlie.
I believe it.
We had a reading
Doubling.
in 2022. Are you familiar with Michael and Marty Perry?
Yes.
You are?
So they used to be in San Diego. I would go to group readings and individual readings with them and my mom. And it was in 2022, we did a Skype reading where one of my other sisters and my wife and I had a group reading with them. So if you're not familiar with them, Michael is the medium and talks to the people that have passed. Marty puts on earphones. She doesn't hear what's going on, but she talks to people that are passed and draws their picture.
Yeah.
And so I can show you a picture that she drew, and nobody knew who this guy was.
Oh my God. There he is.
That's it.
We couldn't identify him. So Pam, you have a story about this.
Well,
When you shared this with Peter Semino?
yes. So after a year or so, I didn't hear back from Peter Semino. He's the author of Murder Inc. Incorporated to the PGA.
And the PGA.
He wrote,
Chuck Workman.
so he wrote this book, his son, Chuck Workman. And I sent Peter Semino a copy of this in an email. And I said, you know, I haven't heard from you for a while. I wonder if you could tell me who this is. And his immediate response, I've never had an immediate response from him. He said, "Where did you get that? Did someone sketch that out of a book?" No, it was not sketched out of a book, but I didn't tell him where I got it.
So in that act, he kind of confirmed for us who it was.
Yeah.
The way he responded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so the picture that you pulled up earlier that had the black and white and the colored one.
Yeah.
If you
Hold on, I'll get to it.
If you look at that colored one, I believe that this may be his son Chuck, but this picture.
I was thinking that too. That looks like him.
That picture Steve just showed you looks like him right there. That is Charlie.
Yeah, hold it up again. Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
That's what I saw immediately.
Yeah.
Well, it's the whole thing
Pam,
about
you wanna
getting
hear
a reading. Getting a reading and all that, people got to understand that they're picking up the phone for you. Your loved ones never die. Whether you look at Charlie has that or not, they're still around you, and they make themselves known, and they have a message. And, yeah.
Well,
that was pretty
can I tell you both this?
Yeah.
Charlie has been alternating between the two of you, coming behind you the whole show. He's been standing behind both of you. He'll come to you for a while, then he'll go to your brother for a while. I've been watching him do this probably for the last 40 minutes. And it's funny. Every time you guys talked about him, he had the biggest shitting grin I've ever seen on a human being. He is so proud that you guys are doing this, that you're keeping his memory alive. And he totally just digs on it, just loves it.
Yeah. And
well,
so,
you're right. Yeah. That second death, I've talked about it before. The first death is when you leave this old meat suit. And your second death is when nobody ever says your name ever again. You know, you're keeping his memory alive. I know the things you probably know that he did were not something you guys would want to do.
But like you
he
said,
still was your grandfather. You
at the
know.
same time, he had 3 different families
Yeah.
and cared for all of them,
Mhm.
and never did anything. He his actions were always to protect the families.
And that's why
You
I
know?
know he wasn't a psychopath.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
there's
don't.
no way with that type of love for family. No, you can't be.
No.
Impossible.
Let me tell you this. Let me read you this real quick. This is basically discussing how he killed Dutch Schultz
Yeah.
and the manner, because we said his name's Bug because he's so cool. Mr. Chill. All right. According to Burton Turkis, who's the assistant prosecutor who wrote the book Murder Inc., and he prosecuted several of its members, Workman strolled into the Palace Chop House in Newark while Weiss provided cover and Piggy sat poised at the wheel. Workman walked the length of the bar, flipped open the door to the men's bathroom, and inside there was a man washing his hands, who he thought was Schultz's bodyguard. He shot the man, who fell to the floor, and then he darted into the back dining room and opened up on Schultz's men, which was Lulu Rosenkrantz, Abe Landau, and Abadaba Berman, killing all 3. And he didn't know that Dutch was already on the floor. So he realized he must have been the man washing his hands. And that's when he went back and rifled through his pockets. So can you imagine this man just walking through there, open the door, pow, pow, going over here, pow, pow, pow. Oh, wait, go back over here, get what he needs, and whoop, out the door.
But you're missing part
You
of
know,
the
it was
story.
just that easy, just did his thing
Yeah.
and was gone.
You missed part of the story.
Oh, yeah, what is it?
Piggy was the getaway driver, right?
No, I didn't
he
get to
went
that.
in- well, when Charlie went back to rifle through the pockets, they thought there was too much time. So the getaway car took off, and Charlie had to
Oh, I
walk
see
his
it.
way out of
Yeah,
there.
we
and
talked
escape.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
We talked about that before he got on, but yeah,
Yeah, we
heard
talked
that
about
before.
that.
Yep.
So
That was a good. I
one
wonder
other
what
thing
happened.
I want
Go
to
ahead.
share about Charlie is in his son's book about the PGA and the mafia. His name was Chuck. He said, "Not Charlie, not Charles. My name is Chuck." And so, actually, his born name was Solomon, a rather Jewish name. But the big point I got out of that book, talking about honor, is that when his dad got out of prison, he said, I've been hearing this my whole life about how you shot Dutch Schultz. And when I asked my mom, she said there was no witnesses, there's no proof. Did you really shoot Dutch Schultz?" And he said his dad said, "I haven't talked about this for 35 years. What makes you think I'm going to talk to you about it?
Wow.
Forget
Oh
about it."
wow,
Yeah, because his son was 5 when he went to prison.
Yeah.
So,
man,
yeah.
he held that omerta, the silence, a lot.
Mhm. Yeah. And so,
Okay.
there's just so much to it. I mean, our dad, before he passed away, filed with the FBI to get a copy. It's all redacted,
Of
but
course,
I'm hoping that the one I filed to get unredacted, since Charlie is over 100, that it will come.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
It is that century mark before you get anything. So, unfortunately,
Yeah.
with obtaining information, I'm just a furious investigator, researcher, especially doing the paranormal and doing stuff like this. So, yeah, there's a lot of things you can't get. They're of course going to be redacted, especially something like that. It's not until the
But
subject
honestly,
comes
there's a
under-
lot of stuff in this book that's not redacted. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Good.
gives other names
And it's all about things that happened from what's it, like 35
38.
on?
oh
38.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's nothing,
All the way
none
to
of our
prison.
family or actions are going to be in there, but it just confirmed what we already knew.
Right.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
And so keep in mind, this is our family story.
Mhm.
This is what we know. His family has their own family story. And one other thing. I contacted a family member, I don't know, a year ago maybe. And this would be his son's second wife. I talked to her on the phone and I asked her certain questions to see if this was the right family, and she knew exactly who I was talking about.
Interesting.
And so she had also said that producers have contacted her to create a movie, and she left it up to Chuck's kids, and the kids said no, so they refused to talk to us or anything. So I said, that's okay. If you ever change your mind, you got my number.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, I forget what movie it was, but the whole killing of Schultz
Mhm.
going into the bathroom and then the bar. I think that happened in a movie. I think they reenacted it with different characters to
I
change
saw
names.
one in a movie where it was
Sounds
very
familiar.
glamorized. It was a
Yeah.
drive-by with a machine gun.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't even get out of the car.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
okay, there's Hollywood for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing
True.
is, a lot of Murders Inc., a lot of their killing method was silent. They used the ice pick. So, there's very rarely that it was, the guns and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, there was a guy that carried an ice pick and a folded newspaper.
yep.
Yeah.
So
Johnny,
Yeah.
thank you for watching.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
We're coming up to the end of the show, as much as I hate it, because I could talk to you guys for hours.
Oh, I could.
Could you please tell us a little bit about your book, about how to get in touch with you, about, what would you like for us to, there's no show coming after, so we could run over a few minutes.
Steve, what would you like to
well,
say?
we haven't published the book yet. It's like every time I read it, I edit it.
Yeah.
We haven't published it yet, but it has pictures in it and family stories
Wow.
that kind of confirm everything. The problem is, it's not much of a book. If you use what's a 6x9 paperback has 250 words per page, and so this would come out to probably under 40 pages so far. And so we're looking at just having it shared with the family. I don't know how much interest there would be outside the family, because this is very much about his life before the mafia and what happened as a result of that. But his families, and how we discovered each other and moved forward through time.
Although,
And the fact that they kept touch.
yeah.
They would show up at funerals and nobody would know who they were, but we got confirmation.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
We're not sure, but I don't care if it's 20 pages.
Well, as many
I think
independent.
anybody that's out there about the mafia would be interested in reading it.
Yes. You got that right.
Yeah,
Oh,
especially
I
the history
definitely-
before.
Yeah, the history. Yeah. Sean,
So I wanted to let you know, I think a lot of people would be interested because, we talk about gangsters and mafia or whatever now, and it is nothing like the what we have here. And there's so many books written already about this. I think actually coming from family members that are discovering him is taking people like us through the emotional roller coaster of what it must have been like for you, discovering who this man was, how you were related to him, and what it must have been like. I think that's incredibly fascinating.
This is actually
really
our
about-
dad. This is really our dad. This is our
dad
dad.
search for him since he was 6.
Right, since he
Through
was
his
6.
entire life, trying to find where'd my dad go.
And just confirmation. So when our dad died, it kind of slowed down, and then we kind of picked it up, and I went on with it. So
Well, if you're worried about transitions and the writing part of it, there's AI software that can sort that. Then you
I
can go
have
back and edit it. And then I have Family Spirit has an independent author, a publisher, independent publisher that has a really great program where it's not a whole thousands of dollars up front from your part or her part. And she sorts through it all with pictures and makes sure everything's formatted properly.
Yeah.
And then she puts it out there for you and helps you market it as well. I think
No, I
that's
would love
something
to
I
do
can
that.
share with you later.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
She's done well for me and Lee. Both of our books came through her, and she's amazing.
Yep. And Gwen's
Okay.
working on hers. I'm ready for our
Here's mine
paranormal.
to send out.
Oh
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. We
I
need
can
to
do the
get
cover
that
for you if
one
you want me to. It'll save you money.
Yeah.
So if there's any way, if people can reach out to you, if they have any questions, how can they reach you?
Just through Facebook, I would say. I mean, that's all I have. I don't really have.
Facebook is okay.
Yeah.
Pam Harris.
Yeah. And Steve, do you want yours out there or not? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Not
really
at this
don't.
point. Nah.
Yeah. It's just not.
Well, they could reach out to us, and we could reach out to you if they have any
Okay.
questions.
True.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
right. Absolutely.
One of the
So-
biggest things I want to leave you guys with myself, just hearing this, like short, I didn't hear the whole thing, but I do a lot of stuff outside of what we do here with a group of healing and all that, and it's ancestral traumas that happen. So family to family to family, and the things that your dad had to go through, and what formed him from what Charlie did and all that. So that's that familiar line. And you guys writing that book, I think, is probably very healing for you. And I think even though you're dead, he's always going to be around you. That's going to create that
Oh, yeah.
healing for him on the other side too. So I think it's important to do that, to keep it going, whatever way you got to do it to get it out there.
Yeah. And
Your comments are
Kathy.
very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
I just put the link out about the crime magazine. So if anybody'd like to read it, there you are. I would also like to end the show with one statement that Charles Workman said when he was found guilty, and he was in court, found guilty, and he was holding his brother Abe. He said, "Whatever you do, live honestly. If you make 20 cents a day, then make it. You do it.
Yeah.
If you can't make an honest living, make the government support you. Whatever you do, keep away from gangs and don't be a wise guy. Take care of your mom and dad and Itchy, a younger brother. He needs watching."
Yeah.
So
Itchy's a
at the
much
very
part of
last,
the research.
thinking of
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, Itchy's a big part of this research.
So I'm just going to say, guys, our takeaway tonight is, even the guys that did some of the hardest things still had acknowledgement of honor and acknowledgement of family.
I'm still
And if you're not taking care of your family, if there's things that you have done where you've alienated your family or whatever, and you're not providing for them or taking care of them, shame on you.
Yeah.
Because even our mafia kings here, are taking care of their family and showing respect to the kids by staying away from them because they were not a good role model. That was an act of love. So thank you both for being on. Sean, thank you for hanging out with us. Thomas, thank you for coming in as fast as you did. Blaine, thank you for helping us open the show and helping decipher some of this. We're going to have a great show next week as well. We're going off the air now, but we'll hold tight and discuss what our next topic is. And we will announce that coming up tomorrow. You never know what serial killers, supernatural, and murderers will bring about. I have an idea. So stay tuned next
I'm sure
week.
you do.
Yes.
All right, Pam, Steve, thank you. We really enjoyed you.
Yeah.
And I
Thank
really
you.
recommend you guys doing this book. It's not going to cost you a fortune, and it's going to give you a voice. And there's
Okay.
people that are watching that's interested.
Yes.
Want to
Okay,
close
great.
family
Thank
close,
you.
too.
Thank
Have a
you.
blessed night.
Good night.
Bye,
right,
everyone.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.